Please complete a request to speak form. They're available at the front entrance, and then you will present it to the city clerk. Speakers participating via Zoom and in person will be called upon at the appropriate time. Each person is allowed 3 minutes speaking time. Our city clerk has a Zoom broadcasting announcement to make.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As of June 15th, the City of Grand Terrace reopened its public meetings. If you would like to participate telephonically and speak on an agenda item, you can access the meeting by dialing 1-669-900-9128. Enter meeting ID number 859-9370-5457 and password number 676820. You will be placed in the waiting room muted until it is your turn to speak. You may also submit your comments by sending them to ccpubliccomment@grandterrace-ca.gov. City of Grand Terrace thanks you for doing your part preventing the spread of COVID-19.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. This time I will call to order the regular City Council meeting for the City of Grand Terrace for July 13th, 2021. And just to let those of you who are here tonight, if you're not with us at the end, we will be closing our meeting tonight in memory of two Grand Terrace residents, one of them longtime resident and business owner John Howard, and the other is Toshiro Henry, also known as Hank Canberra, who's a World War II veteran. At this time, we will have an invocation offered by Councilmember Jeff Allen, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Captain Griffith of the San Bernardino County Sheriff. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilmember Allen.
Please place your hand over your heart. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Captain. Madam City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Allen,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
I am here.
Councilmember Robles, Mayor Pro Tem Hussey,
Present.
Mayor McNabo.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any reordering of, additions to, or removal of items from the agenda?
We do not, Mayor.
All right, so we'll move to special presentation. We have new employees.
Yes, Mayor. I will read off the names of the new employees, and we'll ask them to come up one by one. Starting off with our Public Works Director is Eric Weck, Eric comes from us from the city of Indio. After Eric, we'll have Josephine James. She's our office specialist. She's in the planning and development department. And then we'll have Noel Carpenter, who's a senior management analyst in the city manager's office. And so Mr. Weck will come first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here. I came from the city of Indio as a principal civil engineer, and this is an honor to serve the city of Grand Terrace. And I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to providing great service to the citizens and the constituents of the city of Grand Terrace.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Weck. We look forward to working with you.
Ms. James.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. My name is Josephine James. I have taken the position of the Office Specialist for the City of Grand Terrace. Previously, I was working as an administrative dispatcher, and I have a lot of experience in customer service. I am happy to be part of the Grand Terrace team. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James. Welcome. We're glad you're here with us.
And Mayor, she has one of the best qualifications. She's always smiling, and that's
is.
very good.
And
Customer service.
even though we forced her to stand up at that lectern and speak, you did very well. Thank you.
And Noel Carpenter.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, and members of the community. I'd just like to say how thankful I am to be a part of your community. Everything I've experienced in my long 2 days of employment has been wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of helping you achieve your goals in this community. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Welcome, and I'm glad that we didn't scare you off yesterday. All right. Well, wonderful to have new employees. We're looking forward to being able to move forward with the projects that we have. And so we will move forward to our consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any requests to remove items at this time? All right. I would like to remove the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting minutes because I have a question about that. And so I will pull that one off. Do I have a motion for the balance?
Motion to pass or to move the consent calendar, the balance of it.
Second.
So motion by Councilmember Allen, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. May we have a roll call vote, please?
And Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNabb?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So now that I've pulled this off, I need to find out what page I want to go to. There were some comments at the last meeting. It was like packet page 20, maybe. Yeah, Veterans Freedom Park on package page 20. The Park and Rec Committee was talking about additional fencing, and they wanted the items submitted to the City Council for consideration during the 21-22 budget period. And then also on packet page 21 at TJ Austin Park, they were talking about replacing wood chips and wanting that to be submitted for consideration in the 21-22 budget process. Now, this is May 13th that they had their meeting. I don't remember us having discussion with regard to that specifically. So what would be the process coming from the Park and Rec Committee when they make a request like that?
Yes, Mayor. Yes, as part of the budget process, we reached out to all of the city's committees and asked them questions about what they would like to see to move forward in the organizations. There was a memo attached in the budget document that identified what they were looking for. In the PowerPoint presentation, we talked about that. And we also talked about that the items in which they were recommending can be accomplished in the Prop 68 grant, which the city has, which we'll be bringing forward and list all of those particular items.
Okay. So it's just that I don't remember it being a suggestion from the Park and Rec Committee. Was it spelled out in the presentation like that?
It was, and
Okay.
as I outlined the process that we used, it was listed that way.
Okay, very good. That was my only question, so I will move adoption of that item.
I'll second it.
Okay. So motion and second by Councilmember Allen, if you would call the vote for that.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamara.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. We'll open public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have requests to speak during this time? Okay. So this is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on any items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda. They may briefly respond to statements made or ask for clarification. Items may also have a brief response from staff, and items may also be agendized for a future meeting. And we have one request to speak at this time. Thank you. Mr. Johan Gallo for Mona Henry.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's nice to be back. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. Just real quick, I wanted to discuss the issue that my mother-in-law, Mona Henry, is having with Burtec on the basis of the new day on Friday. She is disabled, and she is unable to take the containers down to the curb. And so she's made arrangements ahead of time and the containers are marked that she's disabled. They're placed in the driveway. And ever since the new day, they continuously miss her. And she's got to call every time, every Monday, to remind them to stop and get her cans. She was really frustrated last week because she called and she was on hold. She listened to all their messages, and the truck drove slowly by, passed her, didn't stop. By the time she was off hold and went through all their phone tree, it was 5 o'clock and the office was closed. And the trash cans aren't being picked up until about 5 in the afternoon anyway. And so she's very frustrated in this because she's constantly having to call. And then the thing that really set her off this week was she called and she talked to the person. It wasn't, as she put it, the kind person she normally gets. She got someone that was rather short and rude and ended up hanging up on her and said, well, we're not making any other trash runs until Friday of next week, so you'll just have to wait. And that was the end of the conversation. Wow. She feels bad because she didn't get her name, but she's usually a very patient 87-year-old woman. She's not anymore. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gallo. We'll have staff follow up with you to get more information from your mom. Mr. Duffy?
Yes, and I think this is an opportune moment because the executive director of Burtec is sitting in the audience there. And so he heard all the comments, and I'm sure he'll follow up with you, Mr. Gallo, to make sure that your mother does receive excellent customer service.
I did not see him come in. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you were here to hear that.
Yes. And just to let you know, Mayor.
If you could come up to the speaker so that you can let everybody know.
Absolutely.
And you can go ahead and state your name for the record, too.
Yes, for the record, Mike Aragon, Vice President, Mr. Duffy, Vice President of Burtec Waste Industries. I did hear your comment. First of all, I apologize for that taking place. It's unusual in the way that we handle our customer service, but it will be rectified. But also to let residents know that if you are frail or handicapped in any way and you have no other able-bodied person in your household that can take trash to the curb, if your cans are accessible without us going into your backyard or into your garage, but at a point where we would pull them down, have them serviced, and usually depending whether the first service is trash, then recycling, and if green waste happens to be the last service, then the last service will take all the barrels back. So that's available. It's at no additional cost. And it can be arranged through any of our customer service reps. But I will leave you my card in case you have any further issues with our local division, but I'm sure we'll get that handled.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Garrigan. I
Thank you.
appreciate you being here to speak.
Absolutely.
And again, thank you, Mr. Gallo, for coming and sharing that with us. Are there any other requests to speak during this time?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, so we'll move on to item E on our agenda, public hearings, of which we have one. Tonight's public hearing is regarding objections or protests to collecting delinquent refuse, sewer, and rental inspection fees on the tax rolls for affected properties, adoption of resolutions to collect said delinquent fees on the tax roll, and for placement of assessments for said delinquent fees on properties located in the city for fiscal year 21-22. We have Ms. Shanita Tillman, Management Analyst, to guide us through this.
Thank you, Mayor McNabeau, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Shanita Tillman, Management Analyst. The staff report before you supports the following goal. Ensure our fiscal viability by ensuring appropriate cost recovery for sewer, trash, and rental inspection services previously rendered. This public hearing is to discuss the placement of assessment liens on properties with delinquent refuse, sewer, and rental inspection fee accounts. This is reflected in our municipal code in chapters 5.42, Integrated Waste Management, 13.08, Sewer User Charges, and 5.80, Non-Owner Occupied Rental Property Program. Refuse and sewer fees are assessed through our partnership with Burtec and the City of Colton. Burtec oversees the program for residential refuse and sewer collection. There are currently 184 delinquent accounts. The City of Colton oversees the program for commercial sewer collection, and there are currently 7 delinquent accounts. And the City of Grand Terrace oversees the program for our rental properties, which requires payment of annual inspection fees by rental property owners. And there are currently, as of yesterday, 29 delinquent accounts. This is a breakdown of our rental property stats. For single-family homes, there are 268 rental properties. For condos, 47. Apartments, 5 or more units, there are 15. If we were to break that down into larger apartments, we have about 5 of those. Duplexes, 19. Triplexes, 5. Fourplexes, 21, for a total of 376 rental properties within our city. The delinquent account list timeline is as follows. On June 24th, 2021, a delinquent notice was sent to residents with the assistance of Burtec and city staff via certified mail. On yesterday, July 12th, a preliminary list reflecting payments not received as of July 1st was submitted to the county. Today, this evening, the city is conducting the public hearing. The council agenda includes a list of delinquent accounts not paid by July 6th. August 9th, the city will submit the first list of special assessments to the county. Accounts paid by August 5th will be excluded from that list. And finally, on August 31st, a final list of accounts not paid by August 26th will be submitted as the final corrected list of special assessments to the county. The staff recommends the following: conduct a public hearing to hear appeals of delinquent fees that are proposed for adoption and assessment on the tax rolls of the county tax assessor. And secondly, adopt a resolution of the City of Grand Terrace, of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace, County of San Bernardino, State of California, adopting a report of delinquent refuse, sewer user fees, and a report of delinquent non-owner occupied rental property program fees and fines, directing that such delinquent fees be collected on the tax roll and be imposed as an assessment upon properties within the City of Grand Terrace. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Tillman. Before I ask for questions, are there any ex parte communications, conflict of interest, or need for recusals that council members want to announce at this time? All right, seeing none. Are there questions of staff? Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that report. Regarding the non-owner occupied rental program,
Yes.
do we have any owner occupied rentals? Or is there even such a thing? Because I'm kind of wondering about this term non-owner occupied rental property. Isn't that sort of the purpose about having, rental investing? I mean,
Yes, so currently at the moment, if an owner lives at the property, we wouldn't consider them as part of this program.
because they don't rent from themselves.
Right.
Right. So that whole term of, okay, I get it. So is every rental property in the city required to be a part of this program?
Based on our municipal code, a property that is being rented should be enrolled in this program.
Okay. Do you know if they all are? And if there are not any, how do we go about, are they also considered, are they on this list that you're referring to? Those that are not part of the program?
All of the ones we are aware of are part of the program. So if, for instance, if we find out through advertising that, an individual or resident is renting their program, code enforcement might send a notice that informs them that if they are in fact renting their property, they are, obligated to enroll into this program. So we have who we know of.
Okay.
And that's all we can address at that point.
A residence that has, at what point, how many unrelated occupants or family does the resident, a single-family resident have to have in it before it becomes a multifamily dwelling? Does it need to have like 2 families or more, or 3 families or more, or 3 unrelated
Well,
residents?
A single-family home is a single-family home, and it will stay categorized as that based on the property's description.
Right.
Unless the property itself is a duplex, then we wouldn't consider it a multi-family.
Yeah.
It's just a single-family property that has multiple.
So if the owner of that property who's living in the property itself decides to make it a multifamily residence without telling you, how these the kind you're referring, that this would be an owner-occupied rental property, wouldn't it?
Yes, and they would still be classified as a single-family home if that's the type of property they're residing in.
And even if there were multiple families living in the one, the city doesn't have any real.
I believe, and I'll have Steve speak because we recently discussed this.
Director
Okay,
Weiss?
thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Good evening, Council. Excellent question, Councilmember Allen. It's interesting because owning your own house, you have certain liberties to renting it to relatives, to subletting it, to let your kids' dogs live there, and things like that. This is more when you rent out a residence separately, and you're
Correct.
not living there, then that is what a rental housing is, and that's what needs to be applied for at the city. We do have, as Ms. Tillman indicated, through the code enforcement process, we do get a handle on if there is illegal subletting going on, and it does catch up.
But at what point does it become illegal? Who determines if? At what point does does the tenancy
Yes.
cross the line?
Yes, that's an excellent question. When the owner does not live within that property and they actually have, when they lease the property out, or there's information, and again, through code enforcement, when you have cars parked and you have other infractions that occur within that neighborhood, then there's other things that can happen, and that's kind of like unweaving a ball of twine,
But if the owner lives in the residence with their tenants that they're charging rent, then that's good to go?
That wouldn't qualify as part of the rental housing program. It would have to be a separate entity. So it'd be a rental.
City Manager Duffy had his hand raised. He has a comment
Yes.
to make.
And so I think to make it clear, and I think I understand what Councilman Allen's asking, what staff is indicating is that as long as the owner occupies the house, then he can rent his rooms out to anybody he wants. He can't do a boarding house, but if it's family, that's fine. But if the owner modifies the house and creates another entryway, that's a code enforcement violation because there are no permits done in order to do that. Then that would be a separate issue versus the rental housing program. Code enforcement would be notified. They would go out and they would find out what's going on. But under the rental housing program, it's all based upon the category of the property. A single-family house is a single-family house.
But I'm talking about, just the kind you just mentioned is, I'm talking about the owner that does turn it into a boarding house and continues to live in the house and rent the rooms out individually. I'm not talking about short-term rental either. I'm talking about, like that sort of thing,
That would be a violation of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And your question regarding a duplex, you can't just turn a single-family home into a duplex because that would be in violation of the zoning ordinance also.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, briefly. Yes, what Mr. Weiss said is correct. So if it's a single-family zoned area and you convert it to something other than a single-family home, that would be unpermitted and non-compliant with the zoning code. So we would be able to go after them on that issue, that they've done construction, they have a use that is beyond a single family.
Right. I understand that, but when the house hasn't been converted, but yet it's still being utilized as a multifamily residence, but it's not been remodeled into a duplex.
And assuming it's the same entrance and everything, then it becomes a potential health and safety issue, whether there's too many people in there or not, whether there are too many cars on the property, that there's a parking issue on the street. That's when we look at other issues, other avenues for code enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes, packet page 37 at the bottom, delinquent commercial sewer account users. Pulled up the addresses, and I'm just wondering, do we, since they're delinquent on that, do we also, does it affect their permit to work here in the city or have a business in the city? And two, if it is a, commercial property, do we have anything with these funds to help business owners to pay down their bills for like the sewer, for all those funds, the special funds we have out for the COVID? So.
Mr. Duffy?
We did not utilize this a particular program for a project like this. Now, there are organizations, and I guess here's the thing, with the American Recovery Plan, you would be able to possibly develop a program to provide some sort of a subsidy. You can use the general fund if the council decides to do a policy to provide some assistance, but you can't use the sewer fund or a specialized fund to do that. If the council had an established policy and decided to create a assistance fund for utility bills, you could certainly do that. You might want to consider when we get the American Recovery Plan Act money, the $1.1 million, you can look at, especially from the commercial side, you can actually look at trying to figure out if that's a program that you can actually provide assistance for with those proceeds.
So them being delinquent here on their accounts, does it affect them getting a permit to operate in our city? Do we look at that?
I don't believe that it does at this time. I think that they're completely different. The way we treat them are completely different issues.
So I know one of them on Michigan, I think it's a development that's ready to happen or on hold, and it's a church. So I just wondering, because I know, like we said, that the American Recovery Act, and they're giving money to all these businesses. I didn't know this would be part of the money they would give to help them pay for their utilities.
So one of the things that happens, the reason why we have this whole entire process is because it's sort of a guarantee that the proceeds will be paid. If you don't pay your bill, this is going to go on your property tax, and your property tax is going to be paid, or after a 5-year period, things will happen. And so So there's a process in place to ensure that, because no one really wants to, we see this all the time, and at the very last minute, they will go in and they will pay the proceeds.
And just looking at, this list that we get every year, it seems like we have a lot of repeat offenders on here. But especially it looks like apartment complexes. All right, so I just wanted to know about the commercial property. Thank you.
Well, sir, and some people are under the impression that if they don't pay the utility bills and it goes on the property tax, that they can write that off as part of their property tax. So I've heard that that's not really the way it should work, but some people still do that.
Well, I know we had a landlord get upset at the council one time because we were making him, on the delinquent thing. So, I don't know if they're, if we go through the process and tell them that their tenants are delinquent on their trash and sewer and stuff, they're responsible, and he thought he wasn't responsible.
Right, and they are. Our code indicates that even though you rent your property out, you are responsible ultimately for the trash bill.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff? All right. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any requests to speak on this item at this time?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for deliberation on this item.
So, Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Allen.
so we've got, this is before us to adopt these two resolutions, correct, to allow these delinquent fees to be placed on the property tax rolls. And so I will move the three recommendations for discussion purpose.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Allen, we only need two of the recommendations, which are the adoption of the two resolutions.
Okay.
Because we've conducted the public hearing already.
Okay.
So item 2 and 3. Is
Then-
that what
then-
your
then
motion?
I was aware that we were doing the public hearing, but I saw that it was in here under the, so I will move recommendations 2 and 3 then.
All right, thank
Adopt both of the resolutions.
Thank you.
I'll second recommendation 2 and 3.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Allen and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Any further discussion on this item? All right, seeing none. If you would call the vote, please.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamara.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to new business. Adoption of resolution declaring the city council's intention to conduct a public hearing and setting a public hearing relating to refuse, recycle, disposal service, green and food waste collection rate increases. Ms. Tillman.
Yes, Shanita Tillman, Management Analyst. The staff report before you supports the following goal: ensure our fiscal viability by ensuring appropriate cost recovery for services. Some background information. The City of Grand Terrace contracts with Burtech to provide refuse hauling services. Burtech has requested various rate increases on the basis it's absorbing rising costs. Rate increases will be proposed for both residential, multifamily, and commercial customers. The last rate adjustment was approved August 2019 and went into effect September 1st, 2019. And this proposed rate increase is a standard annual increase and does not include legislation SB 1383, organic waste reduction, which will soon be implemented by the city. Some common refuse service rates, and this will vary by customer because residents do have an option between various service. Residential / multifamily standard 96-gallon trash barrel. The current rate is $29.13. The proposed 2021 rate is $30.83, which is a 5.8% increase. Residential/multifamily 64-gallon trash barrel is $27.67 and will increase to, or proposed increase to $29.31, a 5.9% increase. Multifamily 2-yard bin is $127.27, proposed increase of $143.01, a 12.3% increase. Multifamily 3-yard bin, $174.29. Proposed increase would be $197.45, a 13.3% increase. Commercial front-load refuse, 96-gallon, is $39.28. Proposed increase to $42.19, a 7.4% increase. And lastly, commercial front-load refuse 3-yard bin is $256.28, to increase to $276.48, a 7.9% increase. Staff is recommending one item, and that's to adopt a resolution to set the public hearing date for the proposed refuse adjustment for September 14th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to hear matters pertaining to proposed refuse, recycle, disposal service, and green and food waste collection rate increases. For informational purposes, staff will work with the hauler to undertake the appropriate public notification measures for the public hearing. And providing there's less than a majority opposition, the rate increase for residential and commercial accounts will take effect October 1st, 2021. And that concludes my presentation, and I also have the Vice President, Mike Arreguin, here to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Analyst Tillman. Are there any questions of staff at this time? All right. Well done. We'll open it for public comment. Any request to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion and further deliberation. Councilmember Allen.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 2021 so that for discussion purposes, I just want to make sure that I'm clear that this agenda item is only to set a public hearing date. We're not discussing rates or debating any of that stuff tonight, or are we?
Mr. City Attorney.
You're certainly welcome to ask questions about it prior to setting the public hearing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'll still make the motion because I have a question I want to ask of
Right.
staff or of the Mr. Vice President. I would like to ask if you can tell me the rate increase that occurred in 2019. Can you recall what those percentages were approximately?
I don't have that figure in front of me, but it can be provided to you.
Yeah. Well, my point is this, and I would direct this, of course, not at you because you're, but my point is that when families budget, it's much easier to budget an annual percentage, which is smaller than a biannual increase, which is twice or 3 times as large. You can get the same amount in the end, but it's much easier it seems to me, for a family to budget each year a small increase, 2-3%, rather than every 2 or 3 years getting a 5, 7, or 12% increase. That's the only point I was trying to make with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. So I have a motion for the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Allen, second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Any further deliberations on this item? All right, seeing none, will you please call the vote?
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNiveau?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So we'll move to item 6, which is the Development Activity Report, presented by Steve Weiss, Planning and Development Services Director.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Item 6 as the mayor indicated, is the development activity report. So the vision is to ensure fiscal viability, keep the development process moving, maintaining public safety, promote economic development, implement partnerships, and engage in proactive communications. The development process is a key component to the future for Grand Terrace. So a little bit of background here. The city manager provides a monthly report to the city council that includes data for each department in the city. The number of projects and the activities reported do not reflect everything staff is doing, but rather highlights areas that have been worked on in the past month which may be of interest to the city council and the public. This report is updated monthly and posted to the city's website on the 4th week of each month. So since the last monthly report, the council has expressed more detail in terms of progress, project detail, outstanding issues, and projected scheduling regarding development projects currently in process. And I want to emphasize these are projects that are in the process that we are actually processing at this time. So I'm going to go through each and every one of them, and maybe it's a good idea if you want to ask me questions during this, that might be the best way to go. Okay, and this is really small, but grants aren't truly development projects, but they're an important part of the process. And I know that's small, and I apologize.
Is that good news that's up there at least? Or are you trying to hide some bad news?
I think it's good news.
Okay.
Okay, the Blue Mountain grants, which you're intimately aware of, we're actually going to be having a community workshop next Monday night to discuss them, to get public input. And over the last month is on Channel 3, and you've seen it on Facebook, there's been presentations on what's going on with the Blue Mountain Trail and the parking area. So that we're excited to see that one going. And the other ones are what's called the LEAP grant, which is the local early access plan for basically we're getting our housing element paid for through SCAG, which we're pretty excited about, and we have a really good consultant. And the housing element is being developed as we speak. We went to the Planning Commission last month on the housing element, gave them the overview, and I think it went very well. And now we're creating the housing inventory, and the housing element's being developed. We're hoping to go to the Planning Commission in September on that big project. Need to meet the state requirements. And the other one is called a REAP grant, and we're getting more free labor from the SBCTA. That's not money, but it's labor, and we'll take labor or we'll take money. It all works best for us, and so that's part of it, and it's a matter of providing the compliance reports and working with the SBCTA. They've been wonderful to work with, by the way. Okay, going on to applications, I created little maps here.
That is easier to see, thank you.
Well, actually, my eyes are worse than yours, so
No, that is easier to see.
Thank you. Sorry about the last one.
It's okay.
The first one is there's a subdivision plan for Rosedale, which is basically on the corner of Lytton and South La Cadena, for a 6-unit subdivision that we're in the process of reviewing right now. Still going through comments, water quality comments, things like that. As it goes through the screen check process, we'll eventually be going to the Planning Commission on that once the project is deemed complete. They're all about half-acre lots.
And this is actually consistent with what some of the comments that the council talked about. We're looking at very large pieces, parcels, where they're breaking them up and they're doing infill.
Any questions on this? Okay. On to the next one. This is just down the street from us on Palm Avenue. It's in the office district of the Barton Road specific plan. There's actually a single-family home there. In the Barton Road specific plan, they're not allowed. It's vacant right now, and they're proposing a duplex within there that is going through the conditional use permit process. It's right on Palm, can't miss it. Okay. The next project is Condor Energy, and I'll show you the map. That's the Cage Park, as most of you affectionately know Cage Park. Condor is proposing a battery, 200 megawatt battery energy storage facility. And if you look just above there, just to the left of all the green trees, is the Southern California Edison station where they would hook up the wire there. They would and exchange energy with Southern California Edison, and that is the big mandate of the Public Utilities Commission. These are not the batteries that we used to see 15 or 20 years ago. These are sleek Tesla batteries that store energy and sell them back and forth. In fact, you see them at the school district, you see them on houses. I'm sure you get bombarded with ads to put Tesla batteries on the sides of your house, but that's what these are, but larger. And we are in the preparation of developing a mitigated negative declaration for the project, and we are waiting for some technical studies to come, and when they're done, we're ready to go to the Planning Commission. Okay? The next project, which I think Mr. Duffy will discuss later, is the Greens Group. This is the old redevelopment land that's just above McDonald's and the Blue Mountain Villas. They're proposing a mixed-use development with a hotel, apartments, and retail. Exciting project, and also with a small park in the front of it. As far as the timing goes, this is all being worked on, and we feel that we're very far along in it. We're just waiting to get the final plans in so we can move this project up. Okay. The next project is Aegis Builders, and I think Councilmember Hussey spoke about that one with the church. It's the combination of the church and a vacant lot there where they are proposing homes there. This is being done through Daryl Moore and Ken Kanzeret. However, they came in with a small lot cluster development, and they have now put this project on hold. And we are hopefully waiting to get a resubmittal on this, but at this time I do not have a timeline of when this is anticipated. But we do speak with them regularly on this.
On that proposed project, will they be leaving the church there?
This plan shows a church.
Okay. But in your discussions with Mr. Moore, at some point, were they wanting to take the land where the church is and build homes, or are they going to allow the church to stay?
This project dates me, but the original proposal did not show the church there. But when it came to us, we saw the plan with 23 homes, small lot, single-family detached homes.
Okay, thank you.
Next project is Edwin Renewables. I think Mr. Duffy's talked about this a number of times. It's a plastics to fuel conversion facility that's located right down on Barton Road, just by not too far from Terrace and DeBerry in that area there. It's an exciting project. We work with them regularly. It's not quite ready to serve up for public hearing. A lot of environmental work's being done on it. The challenge is to work with the Air Quality Management District to get the permitting allowed. Once the permitting is allowed, then the project will commence to public hearings.
Do they have a timeline for the AQMD?
Unfortunately, we meet with them regularly, but there's additional information that the applicant needs to provide. It's a very interesting project, and we have not seen anything in this area that is quite like it. You're heating up plastic and turning it into fuel.
Mm-hmm. And so part of the problem is that the AQMD hasn't seen this process before. So this is new technology for the AQMD. They're regulating the person, they're making comments, he's showing that how his proof of product actually works. So that's what's taking so long in the process, is they're trying to figure out the emissions component, and he has to run through tests and so on and so on. So it's a revolutionary project, actually, especially with gas at $4.29 for regular.
It will.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
It'll create a very low emitting diesel type of fuel, which is actually pretty exciting. So we're looking forward to it. The next project is another Aegis project that's on, if you look at that little triangle on Canal, and you always wondered, why isn't there something there on Canal? Well, it's because I don't know, but it's part of the redevelopment agency property, and it was originally came in as 12 condos, and now it's looking at 16 apartments. We're waiting for the plans to come in. It's traversed by the Gage Canal, and that land has to be brought over. And that, again, it's a process that we're confident that we're going to see it very soon, but again, we're still waiting for it.
I believe the original owner of that property didn't want to sell when the Highlands were acquiring to build.
I appreciate that. It befuddles me.
Which is now why then the redevelopment agency purchased it, which was why then the successor agency had it, which is why then now we've sold it to Aegis Builders.
Thank you. I know it's been kicking around since about 2003 or so. So the next project, which I think the council is intimate with, is the Gateway project, or Harvest they're calling it too, and it's really the future for the city. It's 132 acres, and it basically will extend Commerce Way from Barton Road all the way to Taylor to Main Street, and it's going to create a really clean streetscape. It's going to provide a park exchange, a park swap there, where we'll have a beautiful community park. There will be multifamily housing and single-family attached housing, as well as retail. Getting Commerce built, getting this project is a real game changer. We are waiting for documents as I speak. We should be getting them. I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing some submittals happen this week on it, and also to get the draft environmental impact report going. That's very important. And once that goes through, then the project can be deemed complete and we can get into the public process. Any questions? Okay, this project you've seen, but I wanted to mention it anyway because there's still components of it that are still hanging, dangling participles or whatever you want to call it. This is the Grand T1 project. This is the trailer axle facility on the north side of town within the Edison easement, or also known as the Patrick O'Brien property. They have received rough grading permits, and you'll see these grubbing type machines going across the property, smoothing it out so they can put the slag on the property, so eventually they can put axles there. But as far as there's still some areas that they have to comply with. In fact, I'll be meeting with them Thursday to go over all of the conditions and mitigation measures that are tied to the community benefit agreement, water quality management plan. There's an array of conditions that they're working closely with us on. So I expect to see the community benefit agreement also coming in very soon. They're working with a landscape architect to work to figure out the amphitheater over at the Fitness Park, and the roadway improvements along Terrace Avenue, which will definitely give Terrace a lot more, provide more safety features to it, and also nice big signs that say, no trucks go into the neighborhoods, those types of things. And we're also working with the city of Colton on that.
Are the improvements to Terrace going to take place before this project is allowed to be signed off?
It will be, if it's not completed, it will be bonded for. As part of the community benefit agreement, they also have financial obligations for the 10-year maintenance of Terrace Road. But no, we will not sign off on this project until we get certainty that these improvement plans will occur.
Okay, well, it was my understanding that the trucks that would be frequenting their area would come down Terrace, and that the roadway is not in a condition to take truck traffic at this time. Is that true?
Not completely, Mayor. These trailers are empty trailers. They're not full trailers. But before they can open, that road will be improved. It will be improved. There's absolutely, those are conditions on the project.
And then as far as the signs saying that no trucks are allowed through the neighborhood, my understanding is we already have those types of signs, so what are we putting in place to enforce that?
There will be signs strategically. Those are conditions on the project that you saw back on August 25th of last year. The signs will be strategically placed both at Vivienda and Walnut, And those are the ones that are going to put what we think is everything on notice. Now, to say that we can completely discourage any truck from going through any neighborhood between Grand Terrace and Barton and all the way to Newport, I don't know. But for this project, they are strictly conditioned. There shall be no trucks traversing through any part of those residential neighborhoods. They can only go from Barton to Terrace.
Okay, and the residents will be given a number to call if they see
Yes,
trucks
and if you-
associated with that business?
Without a doubt. And if you go out there right now, there's a huge sign up there that has a number, and I tried it, and somebody actually picked up the phone and said, "How can I help you?" So, because I didn't believe it at first, but they're on top of it, and there's also a lot of work going on around there because of on Tropico Rancho Road. There's also the light improvements going on, the median work going on La Cadena and that. So there's a lot going on right now.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
Mr. Wise, was there an EPA study done on this area? Challenges or anything? Because, they got a lot of development and stuff. I don't see anything about, because we approved the grading. I'm assuming that the EPA was already passed and studied, or environmental impact?
Absolutely, Councilmember Hussey. And anytime I can walk you through the environmental process, but exhaustive technical studies were done out there regarding the project, everything from water quality to floodplain management to air quality was done. And yes, we have, and they have to go through state and federal requirements in that matter. And they're also on the Santa Ana River too. So there's work going along there that they have to comply with too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Please continue.
That's the site. We're almost done.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next site is, this is kind of down where the battery storage is proposed. There is an existing site out there, which is called National Logistics, which is really a pallet yard out there that was never permitted, and they're working with us, and we're working closely with San Bernardino County Fire, even Colton Fire, to make sure that they're complying. There's only a couple more years left on the lease on this property, and we are working with them. An environmental document was prepared, and we are going to be taking this back to the Planning Commission later this year and to basically sunset this project. But they've been a good neighbor with us for the last 6 months, been working very well with us. So it's one of those projects that you inherit and you work with, and we're working through it, and they are complying with all of the health and safety requirements as of right now. But they are in the process.
So, Mayor, this is also the site that we are using our SB, is it 2, Steve, or SB 1 grant for. This is, the property owner was interested in doing a transit-oriented development. This is off of near Main Street. So we are currently engaged with the property owner to try to develop a concept for that site.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Any other questions on this?
Councilmember Allen.
I have a question about a previous project that's on here. It's the Edwin Fuels. I didn't get
Okay.
asked.
Before we go
Sure.
back, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a question on this item? Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Allen.
I'd like to back up to the Edwin Fuels.
Right there, okay.
And has there been any concerns over how the interest in commercial transportation? I know that one of the things this has been described to me as a facility that will convert plastics into a fuel that can be used by trucks, right? But one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, and it's becoming more, there's an increase in this also as we progress into the future, is the desire to convert over to electric, logistics, and most of the public transportation buses, I mean, they're either natural gas or electric. And the big push now, especially here on the West Coast, is electricity, and battery. And so my question would be, is there a contingency I mean, what else can the fuel that's produced there be used for? You know?
It's a great question. I would like to think of this as a form of alternative energy. I mean, plastic is something that can be reused. And though diesel is not zero emission, the reality of diesel power is still has not been sunset even by the federal government. I'm an electric person, you know that. I think that this project has a tremendous future.
Even long-term?
Well,
I
sir,
mean, I'm just,
yeah, so there are multiple product lines that will come out of this product. There will be diesel, there'll be propane, there'll be multiple types of uses. And here's the thing in this. So this gentleman has spent $8 million on buying this property, consolidating the property. So he has an $8 million investment. He has brand new technology, and he's betting that he can produce fuel cheaper than $3, $4, or whatever the cost is today. So I think he's a long-term strategist, and you know, that property was probably worth about, it's been on the tax roll for a long time. It's probably on there for about $2 to $3 million. It landed on our tax roll last year at $8 million. And so we are certainly benefiting from his entrepreneurialism, and I think he's got a good product. I mean, because there's a lot of plastic.
Further question?
no,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. On packet page 70, you know, my curiosity gets to me while I'm looking at the grants, and then I haven't seen Mr. Gallo in a long time, and then I'm looking at the captain. And I know we had that discussion, and I don't see it on here, and I'd just like to see what the follow-through is on it when our Assemblymember Reyes talked about grants for license plate reader cameras, and then when the mayor mentioned signs, the neighborhood watch signs, whatever happened to that issue?
Well, these grants are only the ones that I took out of Planning and Development Services. Those are still active programs, but I did not mention those. There are other grants that we're doing through the city. I was using these as the closest thing to what we're going to be dealing with in development in the next next year.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I just wanted to know about all the grants because I know we had other things. All right.
And sir, you know, you have the process that you work with the legislature on. You set your priorities, and both the state senator and the assembly person have that list of priorities. We can certainly follow up with them and see where they are. But as you said, we met with the assembly person, and that was probably 2 cycles ago when we made this request. So we can follow up with.
So that's the city's priorities, right? Not just mine.
Well, it was part of the list that the council approved as part of the legislative platform priority.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I'm just wondering on it because, like I said, I haven't seen them in a while and just popped up and just want to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So our recommendation is receive and file, and obviously, if there's any questions you have, these are the major projects. We on a daily basis we work on what are known as land use permits. We do them all the time, business licenses and modifications, things like that. But those are just what we do in our daily work.
Thank you, Director Weiss. Are there further questions at this time? Any request to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, so we'll come back to council, and I know our city attorney likes us to vote to receive and file. So do I have a motion to receive and file?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey, second by Councilmember Allen. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
Mayor McNabo?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice presentation. All right, item number 8. No. Item number 7. I was jumping ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Weck. I almost skipped over your item. We have adoption of capital improvement program for fiscal years 21 through 26. Public Works Director Eric Weck.
Yes, good evening. Appreciate your time. This is Eric Weck, Public Works Director, City of Grand Terrace. So tonight on your in your agenda item, in your agenda packet, item G7, is the Measure I Capital Improvement Plan for 21-22, and specifically that's for the street improvements. And this agenda item supports, the 2030 vision, goal number 2, which is to maintain public safety by investing in improvements to public infrastructure. So, every year, the city of Grand Terrace, and as well as other local municipalities in San Bernardino, needs to submit a 5-year roadway capital improvement plan to SBCTA. And that 5-year plan needs to identify streets that need preventive maintenance and which are funded by Measure I. In the past, City Council has proactively looked at this and have used the toolbox in roadway maintenance ways or methods. Specifically, in the past, City Council has said, hey, let's use Measure I funds for slurry seal projects. And that is so far, on the scale of least to most expensive, slurry seal is least expensive. And then it steps up to Cape Seal, and then perhaps it goes up to 2-inch grind and overlay, and then ultimately it would go to, if the street is in such poor repair, it would need to go to full reconstruction. So this 5-year plan now steps it up a notch. And now we're going to the 2-inch grind and overlay, because these streets that were identified in the city's pavement management system, and it looks at time, it looks at wear, it looks at the type of distresses that are in the pavement. Now we're into the 2-inch grind and overlay. And typically that's a $3 per square foot cost. So for the 5 years that are proposed, we're looking at 21-22 would be $1.6 million. That's this current fiscal year and that we're in right now. Staff is looking into that, and we're looking at some numbers. We may not be able to get to that $1.6 million based on some existing funding that we're trying to work out. But if there's any streets that we push, we'll push back to future years. So for 22-23, we're at $700,000. 23-24, we're at $400,000. 24-25, we're at about $563,000 proposed cost for street improvements. And finally, the 5th year, 25-26, will be $579,000. So, Public Works staff is recommending the City Council to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Grand Terrace to adopt the Measure I 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. And I believe in your agenda packet, you have some spreadsheets that show the streets to and from, the scope, basically, and the area, as well as supplemental improvement costs, such as removing and replacing damaged curb and gutter, and replacing the striping, and there might be some alligatoring that's there, so we may need to dig out a little deeper and replace it. So some of those supplemental costs are included in this as well. I'm here for any questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Weck. Questions at this time? Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. Can you flip back to your slide, please, that shows the annual costs? And by the way, Mr. Weck, thanks for that good presentation. So, you know, the first year up there has more than double what all the previous year, each one of the previous years is. And is that because there is so much, all the severe damage is going to be done in 21, 22, all the really expensive, and all the rest after that is just minor routines? How we really, is that what it is?
There we go.
Because I'm looking at the list of streets, you know, and I know that 21, 22 has a longer list than the follow-on, and so.
Sir, the goal is to try to save the streets that are savable. And so based on the pavement management system, which in fact, in future council meetings, we will be presenting a new updated pavement management system. From what I understand from the past 6 days I've been here, is that this pavement management system that we have now needs to be updated. But based on that pavement management system that we have currently, these are the streets that are savable by use of the 2-inch grind and overlay. And it's the intent to try to keep the ones that we can save, and then in further years we can step up the intensity of work on the roadway and fix those as well.
So, Councilman Allen, what you see here is just more streets.
Well, this linear footage is the same, almost the same as the follow-on year.
Well, the problem here is that all of these streets now, you know, the ranking goes from 100 to down to 0. You're now in the area of 33%. 33%.
So these are the really bad ones.
These are all the bad ones.
Right, when he said if there was some gatoring, no, there's gatoring.
Yeah, these are all the bad, 33 and 33, 35, but the numbers are just really bad.
This is grind and.
Yes, so it's no longer 12 cents for slurry sealing a foot. It's all $3 now. These are all the bad streets, which is good. That means that there's a lot of streets that you've been able to save, but these streets have failed.
And so for the next 5 years, what we've got on here is all the streets that have.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a cost increase based on just the construction cost rising as well? Or do we need to go back and take a look at how much this is actually going to be?
Well, I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
How confident are you with the number that you're projecting here, or is this out of the plan that was in existence when you arrived?
This is out of the plan when I arrived.
Okay, so the cost might be more expensive based on the cost of materials to do construction as they've been rising.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so what you'll see is when Mr. Wick will come back and he'll tell you, this is all the money that we have. And so these are the streets that we will do, and we'll roll the ones down to the next year.
And here's the increase that we didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
You know, like all as we drive down these streets and we see how bad it is, my only concern again, and it was voiced before, is we're spending so much money on here is great, but we have to make sure. Now, I know there's going to be problems like we'll have with the water company leak and stuff. Are we getting with the major utility companies, make sure there's no major work done on these areas before we tear the street apart and get it fixed and they come back in and tear it again?
Yes. So the process that we have is that we provide this list of our cycle for the year to the water companies and to utility companies. And that gives them a chance to be able to do any sort of repairs. But unfortunately, they can't time when, a leak occurs. So sometimes it happens where you complete a street and you think everything's great and there's a water leak and they have to tear the street up.
Yeah, I understand that. My main thing is, because I remember 2 decades ago on Mount Vernon when I think Edison came in and after we just redid the street and they just came in and tore it all up. Yeah. So that's my concern. I don't want to, and I know we're going to have stuff, happen with the water company, the leaks. And I'm sure when we're sitting there doing the grind and all that stuff, we might, damage our hit something on there. But I'm just worried about having the same incident happen again with.
And sir, and the real key for the city is that all the utilities have a requirement to return the street back to its condition. Now, obviously, when you cut into the street, the bigger the cut, you mess with the integrity. But when we go out and we inspect it, we should go out and make sure that it's as smooth as possible, as best as possible. So,
Well, that was a concern too on Main Street when they did all that construction in those homes, and we, partnered with High Grove, and then they came by and they cut up the street and they left, it looks bad, so. But that was just my concern.
Sure.
Thank you.
Further questions at this time? All right. We'll open it up to public comment. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion and further deliberation.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
Second?
All right, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey, second by Councilmember Allen. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles? Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNabo?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Director Weck. 6 days?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You did good for 6 days. All right, so our next item is item 8, which is the second amendment to the agreement for purchase and sale of real property and joint escrow instructions between the City of Grand Terrace and Greens Group, Inc. for the sale of city property located at 22317, 22273, and 22293 Barton Road, and assignment, assumption, and consent agreement whereby Greens Group, Inc. assigns to Greens INV 11 LLC all rights and obligations under that certain reimbursement agreement dated August 13th, 2019, by and between Greens Group, Inc. and the City of Grand Terrace. Mr. G. Harold Duffy, City Manager, will give us our staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, G. Harold Duffy, City Manager. With me tonight, too, via Zoom, or I believe, is Ann Lanford. She's the attorney who worked on the agreement. And we also have in the audience representative from the Greens Group, Andrew Walker, and I believe online we have the property owners, Atman, Ash, and Sharad Kadikian. Okay, so this is the amendment number 2 to the purchase and sale agreement and reimbursement agreement between the City of Grand Terrace and Greens INV 11 LLC. So let's talk about this project. The 2030 vision statement, it is in the 2019-2020 and beyond priority projects. The goal number 3, promote economic development, sale of property for ultimate development. And also for priority projects list, it's the top priority project from the City Manager's Office and the Planning and Redevelopment Director. This is the property that was kind of described earlier. Just very briefly, it's 3 parcels. One parcel was actually owned by a private property owner. The city actually went and purchased that separately. These other parcels were actually owned by the Housing Successor Agency. The city purchased this property about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and the goal is to sell the property all as one unit, representing about 4.78 acres. The original purchase and sales agreement was the purchase price was for $1.5 million. A 10% deposit was required and placed into escrow for $150,000. There was original due diligence period. They had 180 days before they could terminate the agreement. They moved on. We opened escrow, and we've been in escrow since 2019. So the concept plan, part of the project was they had to submit a concept plan, which the city council had to approve. The reason why I mention this is very important. The concept plan actually ties the developer to what they can and cannot do on the property. So there was a discussion at a previous meeting about once we sell this property to the Greens Group, can they sell it? And the answer to that is yes. But the new seller has to meet the conditions of the concept plan. And so What we wanted to do is we have preferred uses: hotel, office, restaurants, retail uses, and multifamily. Originally, we said things we didn't want to see was a gas station, automotive sales, laundromats, pawn shops, used appliances, schools. We actually made a slight modification to that. The council did in terms of the gas station. They allowed that as one of the concepts. They are also required to do all the CEQA and all the entitlements. There is a development covenant and a repurchase agreement also. A little bit of background. In accordance with the executed PSA, escrow was opened with a deposit of $150,000. I said earlier the concept plan was approved by the council. There was actually 3 concept plans. And the entitlement process was laid out. And staff has been working diligently with the Greens Group. This is the latest plan that the Greens Group has put forward. It includes a 110-unit apartment complex in the back and a 12,000, I believe, square foot retail center and a hotel on this particular site. The property line ends here, but one of the concepts in which the Greens Group is working on is they're working with the property owner, which is Vista Blue Mountain here in the back. They're working with them to acquire this green space and also to come in and cul-de-sac this area, creating a clear path and a separation between Vista Blue Mountain. Then this would be a city street, full functioning street with lights and all the scenarios. And then this park area would be owned by the Greens Group, but it would also be a part of amenity for dining and outdoor activity. And this is sort of an outline of the plans which they've talked about it'll be a city street with sidewalks and lights and all the scenario, and that's the park area there. So there was amendment number 1. In March 2020, the Greens Group contacted the city to reiterate its commitment to the project, but expressed concerns as the economy began to shut down because of COVID-19. Under the amendment number 1, under that proposed president of the council was reduced the deposit of $150,000. The Greens Group got $100,000 to be returned from escrow to Greens Group and provide the Greens Group additional liquidity for development of the project. $15,000 was retained in the deposit for escrow, and $35,000 was given to the city as a non-refundable avenue to continue on with the cost for the project. The amendment made no other changes to the original PSA, including the purchase price. Additionally, the reimbursement and indemnification agreement is not affected and therefore remains in effect as originally approved by the City Council and the Greens Group. So now, tonight we're talking about item number 8, the Greens Group amendment number 2. So amendment number 2 is the purchase with a promissory note of $1 million and a balance to purchase in good funds, which is cash, of $460,000. So what this actually does is the Greens Group is trying to purchase the property before they receive their entitlements. Before, one of the things that a developer wants to do is before they acquire the property, they want to make sure they have the right to do what they'd like to do on the property. But the Greens Group has an opportunity through a 1031 exchange to acquire the property. So the city is, in this amendment, is agreeing to getting $1 million in a promissory note, and also the Greens Group will pay $460,000 as a way to finish off the complete purchase of the project. The amendment to the grant deed is entitlement for three years, so they have up to 3 years to receive the entitlement. And then after the 3 years they receive the retirement, there's a work covenant that requires them to do all the improvements on site of the property and off-site improvements. As I said earlier, the property can be sold to another developer, but they must comply with the approved concept plans. And I'll just very quickly say this in terms of this entitlement period. After some discussion about is this a flat 3 years, or once they receive the entitlement, do they then need to move on to the next step, which is the work covenant and improvements. So we do have some language that the city attorney has crafted the deputy city attorney has crafted to ensure that once they receive the entitlements, they move directly over to the work covenant. Recommendations of this amendment is to further demonstrate the Greens INV11 LLC is still committed to the project and ensures that the developer will diligently move forward with entitlements and the work covenants. Staff recommends that the City Council approve Amendment Number 2 to the purchase and sales agreement with one modification as identified, as Mayor McDebeau has that language that we'd like her to read in for any potential change. And the city attorney is going to say something.
Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, thank you. There's one additional document that we're recommending for approval, and that is the approval of the assignment, assumption, and consent agreement. That agreement assigns the rights to the purchase and sale agreement, to the reimbursement agreement from the Greens Group to the other entity, Greens INB 11 LLC. So now that entity,
And where do we see a copy of that?
and that should be included in the staff report.
Is Ann?
It is included.
So it should be in our packet?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it is in our packet.
Then how is it additional if it's already in the packet?
Yes, and it is included in the recommendation as well.
Okay, so it's not really additional then?
To my PowerPoint.
To his PowerPoint.
But it is something that we reviewed in the packet already, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay. So the modification that Mr. Duffy referenced, if you look at packet page 126, and we're looking at the grant deed. Paragraph B, the entitlement period. Recommendation is a sentence added to the existing paragraph. And the sentence says, notwithstanding the foregoing, the entitlement period shall be deemed to end as of the issuance of the entitlements. And that would essentially mean that work must begin as soon as the entitlement period is over. They can't wait 2 years and then decide to start. Is that my understanding?
That is correct, Mayor. And in fact, I have also tightened that language up a little further.
All right,
if I may.
so you want to,
I can read it into the record.
please do.
So the provision would read, and note it has been approved by the other party. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the entitlement period shall be deemed to end upon approval of the entitlements by the Planning Commission or the City Council, whichever has final approval authority.
Okay. He's reading that into the record. That is being added to what is in the packet.
It's not, so that's not printed.
It is not printed. It is something that is being, they're asking our consideration to add that.
Correct.
Okay, so are there further questions at this point? Councilmember Allen.
So I liked the concept plan I saw, then I saw that cul-de-sac, and so I'm just going, where's the entrance to the Vista Blue Mountain going to be? If there's a cul-de-sac there, or is there a drive-through through the cul-de-sac?
We're not in the planning stages, right?
So,
You're just asking just because you're interested?
yeah,
Okay. Because you know this is going to Planning Commission and they'll,
yeah.
okay. So you're just curious?
Yeah, I was just
Okay,
curious.
that's fine.
If we want to move on, though, we can.
No, go ahead and answer the question.
Well, and so what happens here is that as you come down this street, it's a much wider street than it currently is. There, as part of the cul-de-sac, there's a driveway here that takes you directly into to the Vista Blue Mountain. They requested to have their parking separately as part of the design. So that's what they're trying to comply with.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to clarify for the second agreement that I referenced, that is on packet page 161. It's the last page of the full agenda item.
Any questions on this item? Mr. Duffy?
Just a reminder that we also have the Andrew Walker representing the Greens Group and the owners on the line.
Very good. Mr. Walker, did you want to say anything at this time?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, staff. Andrew Walker with Overland Development here on behalf of Greens this evening. I was sitting here to say hello from Amin Kadakia, who regrets he's not able to be here. He's traveling, but he is on the line right now. Once again, we want to reiterate how happy we are and excited to be here, and we really appreciate working with us on this. We're in agreement with everything, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. All right, any further questions? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up to public comment. Are there any requests to speak during this time?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to council for consideration of a motion and further deliberation.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations 1 and 2.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Robles, second by Councilmember Wilson. Any further discussion? All right, will you please call the vote?
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Robles?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So item 9 is the selection of an executive recruitment firm to manage the recruitment search for a new city manager for the city of Grand Terrace. Thank you for being here, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, just one.
Okay. G. Harold Duffy, city manager.
Yes, Mayor. Okay, I was a little nervous. I added this to the queue myself, so I was wondering if they had received it. Okay, this is the selection of the executive recruitment firm to recruit a new city manager. This is goal number 4, develop and implement successful partnerships by working collaboratively with the community groups, private, public sector agencies to facilitate the delivery of services benefiting youth, seniors, and our community, which the city manager is the point of contact with the council and with the community to ensure that the goals and objectives of the council are achieved. So the city solicited proposals from leading executive recruitment firms. 3 of those firms responded. One of them was Bob Murray and Associates. The next firm was Ralph Anderson and Associates, and Peckham and McKinney, executive search firm. All 3 firms have extensive statewide experience recruiting chief executives for local governments, ranging from very small to large organizations. During the past year alone, the firms have successfully recruited over 50 city managers. If you select the selection of either one of the 3 firms will result in exceptional service delivery through the submittal of detailed timelines for deliverables, weekly recruitment status updates following initiation of the search, and a deliberate and thoughtful process to find the ideal city manager for the city of Grand Terrace. The cost associated with this was very close. Bob Murray and Associates was $25,000. Peckham and McKinney was $28,000, and Ralph Anderson and Associates was $25,000. With me tonight is Fred Wilson from Ralph Anderson Associates. I did invite all of the firms to attend tonight's meeting. The other 2 firms regretted that they couldn't be, and I'm not sure if they're online or not. Okay.
What was that?
I don't believe that is one of the firms. That is one of the other groups.
Okay.
Greens Group.
So which group was here again tonight?
Ralph Anderson, Fred Wilson is here. He's in the back.
All right. Did you want to come forward and say anything?
So good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Fred Wilson, and as you've heard, I'm with the firm of Ralph Anderson Associates, and we're a firm that specializes in public sector recruitments with a particular focus on city manager recruitments. And as Mr. Duffy noticed, I would say we've done somewhere around 50 recruitments in the past 3 or 4 years with a focus in California. So I think we bring that expertise to the table, and we're prepared to assist you in this process if selected. So Mayor, did you want me to go through the recruitment process or just be available for questions or answers?
How about if you're available for questions, go ahead and stay there. Are there questions of staff at this time? I have a question for you. Do you believe that there is an opportunity to find a city manager at this time, or is it that nobody is looking?
No, I think there's a good opportunities out there. I think many candidates look for cities that have stability, that offer challenges, and I think Grand Terrace is a city that offers that. So I think you will get some good applicants for this recruitment.
Okay. And your process would be, go ahead and describe that.
So the process really, it's a multiple-step process. Step one would be to put together the profile of what the council is looking for in your next city manager. So what I would do is I would sit down with the council and spend time with you to understand really desirable characteristics, traits, skill sets you're looking for. Also develop an understanding of some of the challenges and opportunities that would face the next city manager. Once I go through the process, I would also talk with your staff, in particular your finance folks and development folks, to understand what projects are on the horizon and what's the fiscal situation of the city. Again, the whole goal being to let council and potential candidates know, what they're stepping into. Once that piece is done, then I would put together a recruitment brochure, which the council would approve, then actively outreach potential candidates. Our firm has a pretty extensive database of city managers, both in-state and out-of-state, and I think we can help match up desirable candidates with the city of Grand Terrace. I would initially go through the process of vetting the candidates, conduct initial interviews, and then provide recommendations to you in a top-tier group, if you will, of candidates, as well as all the other candidates, and then along with my recommendations. And the council, if they would agree, would go through the interview process, and we can talk more about that at a different time, and also assist with negotiations with the selected candidate.
About how long do you think that process would take?
I would suggest about probably 4 months realistically from start to finish.
4 months.
Pardon?
Somebody said 4 months. Was that
Yeah,
you,
about 4 months.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we have questions of staff at this time or of the applicant? All right. Mayor Pro Tem Hussey.
So if we hire you and we don't like the city manager, we get our monies back?
Well, actually, what you get is a guarantee that that we will find you someone that's going to work for you. So you have our commitment that if for some reason he or she doesn't work out, we will work with you within the same contract to find someone who will.
In your profession, what has the longest tenure as a city manager, or have you guys brought to?
The
brought
longest
to city?
tenure? Well, again, our goal is really tenure. Councils like to find city managers that will be there for a number of years, and so, our goal is to get someone that would be here for many, many years. I'm not sure how many years Mr. Duffy was here, but if we can exceed that, that would be great. And I think, again, the goal is to find someone that you can work with and be happy with for a long time. So to answer your question directly, it really ranges all over the board depending on where they're at in their life and things like that. But oftentimes people can stay for their entire career if it's a challenge and they're a good fit.
And where is your company based out of?
It's based out of Rockland, but I'm based here in Southern California, so I'm available to meet as needed on site.
All right, thank you.
So on a couple of your examples that you gave in here, Bishop being one of them and Goleta being another, you had city administrator in 2018 and 2020. So that was only 2 years. And then Goleta was 2017 and 2019, again, only 2 years. Do you recall if there was an issue with the placement or what happened with those?
I don't recall directly, but oftentimes, sometimes elections change the makeup of city councils, and oftentimes that results in a turnover in your city manager. So, many times, what we deal with are after an election cycle, there's just a turnover because councils want to change, and so that's hard to predict in this profession.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question for this city manager.
Okay. Councilmember Robles.
because they're so similar, I was wondering, my recollection is who we used for the recruitment of you.
Avery and Associates.
Avery?
Yes.
Okay.
And I sent them the information also.
Okay, so we don't have Avery here then.
They didn't respond.
Okay, all righty.
Any further questions? Okay, we will open it up to public comment. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll close public comment, bring it back to council for consideration of a motion and deliberation.
Mayor?
Councilmember Allen.
The recommendation says to review and select a proposal and authorize the mayor to execute. And so I'll make that motion to that we review and select a proposal and authorize the mayor to execute the professional services agreement once prepared and approved as to form by the city attorney. Now, did you want a motion on a specific firm?
Well, we need to select one of the three proposals that's before us.
Oh, okay, because, well then, let me rephrase it. I am particularly impressed whenever a company is willing and a representative comes in person.
As am I.
So let me just say that I am particularly impressed that this company sent a representative to us in person, and so I will support that.
So your motion is to select the proposal from Ralph Anderson and Associates,
Yes,
and then the rest of it, executing the agreement and all that?
yes,
Okay,
as to form.
as due form. All right.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion for Ralph Anderson Associates and by Councilmember Allen and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Hussey. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, Madam City Clerk.
Just for to ensure the council is aware. So with this action, then we will prepare the agreement and have the mayor sign it. It will not come back to the city council unless the council wants it to for some reason.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
All right, very good. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. All right, please call the vote.
Councilmember Allen?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Oops. Yes.
Councilmember Robles?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hussey?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to working with you.
Look forward to working with you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate you being here tonight. So that is our last item of new business, so we will move on to council communications. Since we have no future agenda item requests, we'll begin with Councilmember Jeff Allen.
Madam Mayor, I don't have any reports and I just want to pass on my condolences and thoughts to the families of those we're remembering tonight in honor in our meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Doug Wilson. Please unmute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Of a personal nature, I've just am immobilized at this point. I don't have back problems, but unfortunately at this point I do. And it's been quite a roundy round in the emergency department of Kaiser Permanente. I am at least able to sit up, and I am looking forward to being more mobile, but at this point we don't even have a course of treatment. So I'll do what I can from Zoom and other avenues and continue my responsibilities.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Wilson, and I hope that you're feeling 100% soon. Back problems are miserable. Councilmember Sylvia Robles.
I just also want to extend my condolences to Janet Howard and the other family that has had a loss. And Councilmember Wilson, if you need anyone to talk to about back problems, I have a 35-year history with that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hussey.
Yes, veteran, World War II veteran Hank, who passed away in Fontana. I know we did a special presentation, passed away, but in Fontana, they have a special presentation for the Veterans Wall there, but then the COVID, postponed everything. So hopefully we can still see that when Fontana ever gets back in, send one of us representatives to go there, to honor his name being placed on that wall from the city of Grand Terrace. I'd also like to thank the Sheriff's Department, because last Sunday I was driving around through town and I noticed a guy, we had the same incident happen maybe 6 or 7 months ago where we had people stop in traffic to ask for money for funeral expense. So this individual, of course, had a sign for rest in peace and stuff. And my 26 years of law enforcement, they give themselves away. So, and I know the guy got arrested for a no warrant felony warrant. So, speedy response, just thank the sheriffs for doing that, and being quick on that. So protect, I don't know, one of our residents, because, sometimes it gets kind of, shady out there and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I'd just like to see if, when they do that dedication for the veterans in Fontana, if one of us could go there and represent Hank for our city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So just a couple of more words about Hank. He was a World War II Army veteran. Toshiro Henry Kanbara, a.k.a. Hank. He passed away on July 10th. He lived to be 101 years old, and he was a resident at Vista Blue Mountain at the end of his life. In March, our local Girl Scout Troop 76, along with the Grand Terrace community and the Cars and Coffee Club, were able to celebrate his 101st birthday. They gave him a nice little parade. The Girl Scouts also purchased a plaque for the Veterans Wall of Freedom for him for his 100th birthday in 2020, and so they presented him with that certificate. During his term of service, he was awarded a Good Conduct Medal, a Victory Medal, Purple Heart, and a Distinguished Unit Badge, in addition to others. And then John Howard, his wife, Janet Howard, is left behind, as well as his daughter Lynn, and stepdaughters and many grandchildren. He's a longtime resident and business owner and community supporter. He passed away on July 9th. And Janet Howard is asking that in lieu of flowers, please make donations to the Grand Terrace Lions Club in John's name. And so, on a lighter note, SBCTA, in cooperation with Caltrans and the City of Colton, they propose to construct improvements to Mount Vernon Avenue interchange. That is the one on I-10. It has needed an upgrade for a long time. So Caltrans has studied the effects of the project on the environment. Their studies show it will not significantly affect the quality of the environment. The report that explains the effects of this project is called an initial study. This notice the notice has been put out to advise the preparation of the draft initial study with proposed mitigated negative declaration, and it is currently available for the public to read. There will be a virtual open house hosted online. It is a Zoom conferencing platform. This will take place Thursday, that's this week, Thursday, July 15th, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can find the link at gosbcta.com/I-10 Mount Vernon. And then lastly, National Night Out will be returning this year, August 3rd, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., and it will be at the Stater Brothers Market parking lot. So with that, I am going to move on to our agenda and ask our city manager if he has any comments.
Yes, Mayor, I do have one PowerPoint slide, that's right. And it is to talk about the Blue Mountain Trail and Trailhead Community Meeting on July 19th, 2021 at City Hall Council Chambers, 22795 Barton Road at 6 p.m. The program will also be televised on Spectrum Channel 3. We'll be talking about the options of the city is looking at in terms of the project, options A and B, Observation and Van Buren, and option C off Palm and Honey Hill. And so there'll be lots of opportunity for the public to provide input from our consultant, and the consultant will go through the potential costs for each site, the pros and the cons, and the overall goal is to solicit information so then he can provide the data to the city council. And with that, Mayor, those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duffy. So we have 4 items for closed session. So at this time, we will be recessing to closed session. First item of business will be conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representatives: G. Harold Duffy, City Manager; Adrian R. Gura, City Attorney; Colin Tanner, Deputy City Attorney. Employee organization: Teamsters Local 1932. Unrepresented employees: City Manager, Assistant City Manager, City Clerk, Director of Public Works, Director of Planning and Development Services, Management Analyst, 2 positions, the Principal Accountant, and the Assistant Planner. Item number 2 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A. Case name is Sunny Days LLC versus City of Grand Terrace. Case number CIV-SB 2107692. And then item number 3 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9D4 and 54956.5C. Number of cases, 1. And then lastly, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.5E and 54957, title Interim City Manager. So for those of you that are not here when we return, please remember the families of Hank Canberra and John Howard in your thoughts and prayers. And our next regular City Council meeting will be held Tuesday, July 27, 2021 at 6 p.m. At this time, we are in recess. All right, we'll reconvene to open session. Council met in closed session to review 4 items. Item number 1, conference with labor negotiators, no reportable actions. Item number 2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, no reportable actions. Item number 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, direction given to staff, no reportable actions. And item number 4, public employee appointment. Direction was given to staff with regard to contract for interim city manager. Council also has appointed our Director of Planning and Development Services, Director Steve Weiss, to acting city manager for the period to begin July 21st through the tentative contract start date of July 28th. That tentative contract start date for the interim city manager. And they also have increased his salary to the A step of the city manager salary for the week that he is acting city manager, and it will return to his normal pay when at the end of the acting city manager period. And that is the report out. So please remember in your thoughts and prayers Toshiro Henry Kanbara, aka Hank, and John Howard, for whom we are closing in memory of. Our next regular City Council meeting will be held Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Any request to have an item placed on future agenda must be made in writing and submitted to the City Clerk's office with request to be processed in accordance with council procedures. We are adjourned.